You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the May 9th meeting of the Michigan City Water Works Board. You can find more information for this meeting at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
All right, we'll call a meeting of the Water Board to order. Approval of minutes from April 25th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion saying that we approve the minutes from April 25th. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Purchase orders.
Before you have a list of 5 purchase orders. The first is to Westside Tractor. This is service and repairs on the travel out back. Basically what this is a trailer unit that has a vacuum and valve operating equipment on it. And it needs significant work done to it. The total amount, this was confirming for $4,369.60. Still a lot cheaper than brand new one. Brand new ones are very expensive. The next one is to Ferguson. This is curb stops. This is confirming. We have orders out for curb stops, and some of those haven't come in yet, so we need to get some, and this particular vendor had some in stock, so we ordered them to get them in, $2,557.
What are curb stops?
That's a valve that we shut off at the curb. Then the next item is to M&K Truck Centers. Service and repairs to truck 9, this is confirming. We had the truck in for repairs. They had made repairs and it was working fine, and then it stopped working again. They ended up having to change out a circuit board. So the total on that is $2,921.12. Next item is to Beecher, 15,000 daily time tickets. These are the time cards that our employees fill out with their hours for $731.13. And the last item is to Delco, 8-inch backflow preventer replacement. This is at the plant. The current 8-inch backflow device has failed, and the repair, it's old enough that the parts are hard to get and it's not really repairable. So we're getting a new one put in. This is for $27,354, and this will be a capital project.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase order.
Second.
There's a motion saying we approve the purchase orders as of May 9th. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. List of claims.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the list of claims dated May 9th, 2023.
I'll second.
Motion is second, we will approve the list of claims as of May 9th. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Bad debt list.
You notice the one account has a significant dollar value. One of the folks on there is deceased, so the other one can be listed as bad debt. And then if that other person attempts to get water service in their name, in our system, we'll have to collect this before they can get water service in their name.
Is this a leak or?
Yeah, they had a leak, and shortly after we turned the water off for the day, like I said, one of the folks of these two names did pass away. So there was no estate or anything. So
As a general rule, if someone has a leak and they don't have a scenario where someone has passed and all that, is there a certain dollar threshold where then we kind of then decide to take legal action on that, or not really?
We've never gone to the process of doing any collections,
Yeah.
as a department.
Okay.
Mainly, it costs a lot of money to go into collections, and, I don't know that we've had that brought up before, and they've looked at, I know Randy had looked at it in the past, and he told me that he couldn't find anybody decent locally that could do that.
Well, they're usually smaller amounts, they don't make it
Most of the
worth
time,
it.
they're very small amounts, and like I said, in order for any of these folks to get service, they got to pay it off. And so you see in the financial statements where we have bad debt that's been paid. We do collect a decent amount of it every year.
Okay. I got you.
I'll make a question about, it's a substantial amount of water usage and a substantial amount of money. Do we notify them? Anyone living within?
All we can do is go after the people that are listed on there, and we do, in order to, before we turn water off for non-pay, we have to send notifications. So not only are they getting a bill, they're also getting notified that there's a non-payment. If we see a bill that's way out of whack, we also do high consumption work orders where we go over and investigate to find out, try and stop it from continuing. Doesn't always work. Sometimes people are receptive to it, other times they're not. And in all reality, a volume of water like this, it could have very well been, I hate to say it, but if you have a toilet stuck wide open and you leave it going for a week, you can add up a lot of water.
So that could have been a month's worth of use of some kind of.
Right, I don't know the details on it.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion for approval of the bad debt list dated May 9th, 2023,
For bookkeeping.
for bookkeeping purposes only.
I'll second it.
Motion second, we approve the bad debt list as of May 9th for bookkeeping purposes only. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Financials, Chris?
We'll just go through page 2 on the cash flow. We took in $656,969 for the month. Actually, $175 was for bad debt recoveries. We spent $649,529, not counting our monthly transfers. Left us with an ending balance of $507,994. We spent $29,058 for inventory items and $84,192 for capital items. On page 3, the distribution expense line is over forecast quite a bit, but there was over $15,000 in truck repairs that fell on that line. And I did actually find in the last day or two an invoice that was actually supposed to go in inventory, but I'm going to reclassify that in April. So our net income for the month is showing at $175,995, but it's really $167,432. And then our year-to-date income is $471,803, and if we correct for that inventory item, it's $463,240. On page 4, material and supplies line, we'll look over the forecast, which is where that inventory item fell, but also we had a boiler pump we purchased for $4,300. And then the transportation expenses, the truck repairs in there for $15,472. Our miscellaneous line includes CDL school for an employee, that's $4,550. And then on page 6, I updated the bond payment that'll be due on September 1st in the first section there. Be due on 9/1 for $678,966. Unless there's any questions, that's all I've got.
Mr. clarify, we're running the loss right now.
Correct.
All right, any other questions on the financials?
I'll make a motion to approve the financial statement, March 2023.
I'll second it.
There's a motion second to approve the financials for the period ending March 31st. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, year-end report.
You have next year packets in the binder, annual report. Department of Waterworks for 2022. Changed the formatting a little bit because I wanted to go into some more detail on analysis. Obviously, I did send this out as an email just yesterday, so I know you guys haven't had time to read it, so I figured I'll touch on some highlights today. And then after you have a chance to read it, and then you wake up from the sleep it puts you into,
I started reading it last night.
yeah, you fell asleep, right?
I fall asleep. I stopped before I might have. I was trying to be asleep.
No, it's, data analysis is generally a dry, topic. Just some highlights, for the year, we had a relatively standard year financially. The previous 2 years had actually been, very, I guess the right word is flush with revenue. Our revenues were higher. Basically what we ended up with last year, our revenues came down quite a bit. It may have been a little bit of a weather situation. We were coming off of COVID, and I think we did have some increased sales due to COVID, especially in the beach areas. But overall, our operating expenses were below plan. I mean, only 0.13%, but they were still below plan, so that's good. But our revenues were 2.3% under our plan, so our net income ended up about 39.5% under plan. But if you take away the depreciation, amortization, it's only about 8.67% below plan. The big thing is our sales were down considerably. Residential commercial 3.5%, industrial and government were 3.6%. We did have other parts of our sales that were over plan, but they're only 22% of our revenues. So the large parts of our revenues are below plan. That can definitely impact this. The big thing to know is that one of the ways you can make sure that what's happening isn't a failure of metering or building or that sort of thing is your water that you're pumping to your system lower than it had been as well. So if you've pumped up here and you're selling here, and now you're selling here, you should only be pumping here. But if you're still pumping at this level, at this higher level, then you probably have a problem. Well, our pumping did come down quite a bit, and basically, if in looking at it, it's pretty close percentage-wise how much it came down. So overall, in our non-revenue water, which is the water that does not go through a meter and therefore we do not bill for, that percentage was very similar as it has been that it was to the last 2 years. So everything considered, we know that the decrease in sales was not due to any issue with our billing system or any issue with our meters. It's more of an issue of just the system demands, what people are using water for, and who's using water and when they're using water. Our operating expenses, considering some of the increases we had in material costs, and we did have increase in our labor expense, we did pretty well to hold operating expenses pretty close to the plan. We were only 1.21% over 2021, which isn't bad at all. The big issue that we're having, especially with concerning some of the things that we have to buy, purchase power, the power to pump the water to the distribution system and to pump it throughout the distribution system, increased 10%. That was because NIPSCO had an increase of 10%. And then the chlorine, chlorine is more than doubled in price, 119% increase in a year. And that is an action on the part of the companies that produce chlorine. They shut down about 1 million tons of production capacity, and this is all the companies together. And so because they decreased the amount of production capacity, the amount that's available is decreased, the amount available decreased, it's supply and demand. Less supply, demand's the same, price goes up, and it's on their website that's what they were doing. So it's not even hidden. I found it on their website in their information to their investors. So, so there's not much we can do about it either, because that chlorine is what we use to disinfect the water, a combination of chlorine and ammonia, and the alternatives are to basically make the chlorine yourself, and that requires a substantial capital investment to do that. To apply electricity to salt, and then you can actually create your own chlorine.
They give it any indication if they plan on increasing production?
Based on what I read, this is exactly what they wanted to do. They wanted the chlorine price to go up. So, it worked. So, you know, I have actually provided, I've provided some information to our sales rep that he was going to pass up the chain of command at our supplier, but our supplier isn't the problem. It's the manufacturers. All our supplier does is takes the bulk quantity and repackages it. And so they're not in a position to make changes to that. But they'll voice their concerns on the whole. The thing is that while chlorine is a critical component to our operation, we as a user of chlorine are not a critical user in volume to the chlorine producers. They use more chlorine for paper mills and for polyvinyl chloride, PVC pipe, that kind of thing, plastics manufacturing. So we're low on their totem pole as far as usage is concerned too. Let's see, capital wise, we did have a plan to do about $1 million worth of capital work. About 22,000 of that was carryover from 21 because we were experiencing a lot of delay from our vendors. We did capitalize about $924,000 worth of work, and there actually is more that can be capitalized. We had some materials for projects, but they weren't at the position at the end of the year to have the inventory that was used for those projects get capitalized yet. So they'll be in this year's, they'll get the money will be moved around, basically, is what ends up happening. Because when we buy the materials, if we buy the materials and put them into inventory, they're expensed as an operating expense until we actually use them for a capital project. And we did capitalize additional labor this year, but we could have capitalized a little bit more, and it's not as much of a benefit to us as it is in private business sector. We don't get the tax benefits because we don't file taxes the way that private business does. And we also don't earn in the same way that like private utilities do. So it's not as much to our advantage to capitalize as it is in the private sector. But we're still trying to put the money in the right bucket, so to speak. Let's see, jump ahead. One of the items, we did have quite a bit of movement in personnel again in 2022. And so far in 2023, we've had a lot of stuff going on too. And so the good news is that even with all of the newer employees that we've been getting, our safety numbers are getting better. And from a financial standpoint, of course, that impacts our workers' comp insurance deductible, or not so much our deductible, but it's our
Premium.
Our premium, yeah, premium, yeah. So our premium, actually is a little high right now because in 2020, 2019, and 2018, we had some expensive injuries. The injuries themselves weren't catastrophic. Actually, one was an ankle sprain, one was a sprained finger. And you wouldn't think they were that bad, but they ended up resulting in surgeries. So surgeries cost a lot of money, and when the insurance company sees a lot of money go out the door for that stuff, they raise the premium. So if we behave ourselves and we continue to work safely and we bring our costs down, I see it in 2025, a significant improvement in our premium. It may not go down, but it won't go up either. So it all depends on where premiums are by the time that happens. But it has gotten better, and I was able to provide some detail around that in here. Operationally, from a production standpoint, our pumping was down. Even though our pumping was down significantly, we still had an increase of 16.9% on chemicals and power due to those increases in price. If we had pumped what we pumped in if we had treated what we treated in 2021, we would have been over 24% from where we were supposed to be. So worked out a little bit to our advantage there. Then of course, we had a lot of activities through the year, a lot of water main projects, and then of course the South Shore Double Track was a lot of work in a very short period of time. It didn't net, actually it netted a negative number when it comes to the amount of feet of pipe installed, but we replaced all those crossings, and they're all brand new pipe encasing. So if those pipes break 50 years down the line from now, hopefully none of us are around to worry about it, but they won't wash out the tracks either. So, and that is a very expensive repair. So, and then the last page, I just have some future concerns, which I'll let you guys read through. I figure it was important to include these items to talk about the future, based on what happened in 2022.
All right. Well, I suggest we take it home and look at it and open up discussion next week.
I'll put a space on in the meeting of that.
Okay.
All right, now time and effort went into that, obviously. Any old business?
Just for some update purposes, at our last meeting, we talked about a possible PFAS litigation. I have not yet heard from the attorney that was supposed to be working on that. He has my contact information. I don't have his, so if he's not doing it, he may have dropped what he was trying to do. I don't know. But if I do hear from him, I will get him together with Barry and we'll talk about it and then bring it back to you guys. Another update, State Board of Accounts, they finished the audit for the year 2022. We didn't have any findings, which is good. There were, and they have actually published the report, so I can't mention what happened. For us, all there were 2 items in a letter communicating non-compliance, which basically means, in their opinion, they think we could have done things a little bit better. The 2 items, there was a bank reconciliation item they brought up. Our transfer account managed to end 2022 in the negative. We know why it occurred. It was bad timing of deposits versus withdrawals in that account. So we have made adjustments so that will not happen again. So it's taken care of. And we're looking at other pieces to that still as well. And then the other item was additional documents that they want us to have uploaded to the Gateway. It's basically a software clearinghouse for the State Board of Accounts where we put a lot of our background information. Makes it easier for them to do their audits in the future. And just so you're aware, they estimated the cost of the audit to the water department is going to be about $14,000. We'll get an invoice, they'll invoice the city, and I believe the city sends us our portion. And then under old business, just a reminder, we are still out doing our system-wide flushing. It's still a process. That's all I have for old business.
All right, anybody else have old business? New business?
Under new business, just so you're aware, Chris took care of a really important item prior to the deadline. He submitted our annual report to the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, which is not an easy task. It's a horrible spreadsheet that's not, it doesn't allow him to change fields or make any adjustments, so he has to do a lot of work to get it working right. And he had to deal with that while going through the State Board of Accounts audit. So.
And you're still here, so that's good. That's good. That's good.
Not coughing up any blood or anything?
Not yet.
Not yet.
That's all I have for new business.
Okay, you wanna comment on this letter to ENIAC?
Oh, that's a copy for, that's just a copy of the quote that we approved that quote, and I was just copying the board on that. That's just for your information.
Thank you.
Okay, any public comment? Any comments from the director?
I did want to thank Chris Wolf for all your hard work on that. And also, I did read the annual report, actually. I wanted to say to Chris Johnson, I think it was really well written and it explained things that I didn't know, so I think it's really well done, so thank you for that.
Any other comments? All right, I hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So I'll second it.
Rich.